Hello and welcome to Sunflower Cottage Crochet. I'm Helen and today we're going to be working up the George strip of the Adventure Blanket Cal. Now as you can see, this one is kind of, it has a lot of texture around the outsides which frame this centre section. Looks really cute once it's worked up, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do this. It's really super simple, so it's a nice easy pattern for beginners. As you can see, there's lots of texture, and as for a blanket, this actually, the bubbles, I don't know whether you can see that, but they actually flatten when you put pressure on them, so they're not hard. So if you lie on this side of the blanket, it's not going to hurt. This strip is based on my George blanket. I'll pop the link to that one in the description below, along with the details for the cal for this adventure blanket. So let's get on with this strip. Now I have got a little sample chain here, and I've worked some half double crochets into it. So we're going to pretend that this is my divider section. You will need at least 2 stitch markers for this one. If you like to use a stitch marker to mark the first and the last stitch, you're going to need 4. But if you don't ordinarily use a stitch marker, then you're going to need 2. You don't have to use 2, but I find it much easier and it makes everything much less complicated when we get to the textured section. So let's start. So for the row 1, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to half double crochet into each stitch. Now very quickly, half double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over and pull through, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, and then we'll yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that's the half double crochet. We're going to do that in each stitch across. So at the end of this row, you will have 200 half double crochets. And I will meet you once you've completed this row. So that's row 1 completed. So for row 2, this is where we're going to start getting some of that lovely bobbly texture to frame the center section. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to half double crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Now on the next row you will be working into these slip stitches. They do count as a stitch, so don't work them too tightly. So for a slip stitch, we'll just insert our hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that loop on our hook, and that's a slip stitch completed. Then we're going to start our repeat for this row. So in the next stitch, we're going to do a treble crochet. So we're going to yarn over twice. So we've got 3 loops in our hook. Insert our hook into that next stitch, yarn over and pull through. So now we've got 4 loops in our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Then we're going to slip stitch into this next stitch, remembering not to work the slip stitch too loosely. This is back row, so what you'll find is that your treble crochet kind of bobbles up onto the other side of your work. That is what we want, that is fine. And then we're going to treble crochet into the next stitch. So we'll yarn over twice, we'll insert our hook into that next stitch, yarn over and pull through, then we'll yarn over, pull through 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on our hook, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops on our hook, and then we'll slip stitch into that next stitch. And we're going to follow that repeat of treble crochet in the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, all the way across until we have 2 stitches remaining. So I'll meet you back at the end of this row. So I've got 2 stitches left. I've just worked a slip stitch. So then we're going to treble crochet into the next stitch. So we'll yarn over, set our hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then in this very last stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. So then for row 3 we need to chain 1 and turn, and you can see, if I just, that this is what our row 2 is looking like. A couple of my treble crochets there have got caught up in themselves. You can just pull them out, it's absolutely fine. So for row 3, come in just a smidge, we are going to half double crochet in each slip stitch and treble crochet across. So we'll end up with 200 half double crochets by the end of this row. So you go ahead and work that row, and I will meet you at the end. So that is row 3 completed. For row 4, we are going to chain 1, turn, and we're going to repeat row 3, which was our treble crochet slip stitch row. So as a reminder, in that first stitch we need to work a half double crochet. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Remember not to pull it too tightly. And then we're going to treble crochet into the next stitch. So we'll yarn over twice, we'll insert our hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, so now we've got 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops on our hook, and yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on our hook, and then we'll slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we'll treble crochet in the next stitch and slip stitch in the next stitch all the way across until we have 2 stitches remaining. So I'll meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so I've got 2 stitches remaining at the end of this row. I've just worked my slip stitch, so I'm going to work a treble crochet into the next stitch, and then a half double crochet into that last stitch. And then we will chain 1 and turn, and you'll be able to see that your bubbles are all sitting on top of each other. So for row 5 we need to repeat row 3, which was an easy half double crochet row. So we'll half double crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of this row where you will have 200 half double crochets if you are completing the adventure blanket cowl. So here we are at the end of row 5. So for row 6 we need to chain 1 and turn. To start this row we're going to grab our stitch markers. We're going to come in 10 stitches on each side and place a stitch marker in that 10th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we'll do the same on the other side. And then we are going to half double crochet into that first stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch 4 times. So slip stitch into the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch. So that's once. Slip stitch into the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch. It's twice. Slip stitch into the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch, and slip stitch into the next stitch, and treble crochet into the next stitch. And then we've reached the stitch with that stitch marker. So we're just going to remove the stitch marker and half double crochet into that next stitch. And then I'm going to replace the stitch marker into that half double crochet that we have just made. And then in every stitch up to and including the one before the stitch with the stitch marker, we're going to half double crochet back loop only. So just as a reminder, this is the third loop, we're going to ignore this one. So here we have our V's that ordinarily we would put our hook through both of those to work a stitch. However, this one is the front loop. Doesn't matter which row you're working on, the one nearest to you is always the front loop, and this one is the back loop. We are only going to be working into those back loops. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook into that back loop only, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to do that in every stitch right up to and including the one before the next stitch marker. And I'll meet you when you get there. So I'm up to the stitch that has the stitch marker in it. I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and then I'm going to place a half double crochet into that stitch and pop that stitch marker back into the stitch that I've just made. And then I'm going to treble crochet in the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch. And then treble crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, treble crochet into the next stitch, and then I've got 2 stitches left. So I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch and half double crochet into that last stitch, and we will chain 1 and turn, and this is what the end of row 6 is looking like. So we're starting to get this solid section in the middle with our 4 bubbles either side of those stitch markers. So row 7, we need to half double crochet in these first 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and then that 10th stitch is the one with the stitch marker in it. So I'm just going to half double crochet into there, remove the stitch marker and pop it in that last half double crochet that we've just made. And then you're going to half double crochet back loop only across the next 180 stitches until you reach the next stitch marker. So remember, in this section we are only working into the back loops. And then we've reached the stitch marker, so I'm just going to remove it for a second and work a half double crochet through both loops of that next stitch and pop the stitch marker into the top of the stitch that I've just made. And then we're going to half double crochet in the remainder of the stitches across the row. So by the time you finish this row, you will have 20 half double crochets and 180 half double crochet back loop only stitches. And this is what we're looking like at the end of row 7. So for rows 8 to 13, you need to repeat rows 6 and 7 3 more times. So if you do that, come back and then I'll go through the next section with you. So you go away, you work rows 8 to 13, which is a repeat of rows 6 and 7 3 more times. Okay, so you've repeated rows 6 and 7 3 more times. As you can see here, I've just repeated it once, just so you get a feel for how it looks. So the depth of your back loop only section should be twice as deep as what mine is now. Okay, so then for rows 14 through to 17, we need to repeat 2 and 3 twice more. So as a reminder, row 2, we can get rid of our stitch markers now, so we don't need them anymore from row 14. So row 2 will turn, chain 1 or chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to half double crochet into the first stitch and slip stitch into the second stitch. And then we're going to treble crochet in the next stitch and slip stitch in the next stitch all the way along until we've got 2 stitches remaining. So treble crochet in the next stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, treble crochet in the next stitch, sorry, neighbour's dogs, and slip stitch into the next stitch. And then we'll treble crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, all the way along the row until you've got 2 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I've got 2 stitches remaining. I'm going to treble crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to half double crochet into that last stitch. We'll chain 1, we'll turn, so you can see that's closed off. If I just move out of the way of the sun, so you can see that's just starting to close off our back loop only section and completely frame it. So the next row we need to half double crochet in the first stitch and every stitch across. So you work your 200 half double crochets all the way along that row, and I'll meet you at the end. And then I'm just working that last half double crochet, chain 1 and turn. So this is what we're looking like at the end of row 15. So for row 16 we need to repeat row 2 again and do these bobbles. So we're going to half double crochet in that first stitch, and then we'll slip stitch into the next stitch, and we will treble crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, and we will continue to treble crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch all the way across the row until we have 2 stitches remaining. And we're going to treble crochet into that last stitch, and half double crochet into that very last stitch, and then we'll chain 1 and turn, and we will repeat row 3. So this row is just a half double crochet row all the way across. So we're going to half double crochet in all 200 stitches all the way across the row, and I will meet you at the other end. And that is roughly what your section will look like. Remember, this back loop only section will be twice as deep for you. Now, because this is part of the adventure blanket cowl, one of the rules for each section is we start on the right side, which is this side, and we end with a wrong side row. So this was a right side row. So just to finish off this particular section, we're going to chain 1, turn, and just do a quick single crochet in each stitch across. So by the time you get to the end, you will have 200 single crochets, and we will be on the correct side of the work, ready to do our divider section or the next section of your blanket. So there we go, that's all there is to it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this section was based on my George blanket. If you haven't seen that before, please do have a look. It's a really beautiful blanket. I'll pop the links in the description. I'll also pop all of the links for the adventure blanket cowl into the descriptions so that you can have a look at that. The ebook will always be available if you prefer to have the ebook, and equally all 20 sections that we're releasing as part of the free cowl will be free on the blog posts forever. So do take a look if you would like to. If you've enjoyed this tutorial today, please feel free to subscribe, say hello. You can find me in all the places in the description, and take care. Have a lovely day. Bye.